A Cuppa podcast with Kat Wright.
This is Grab a Cuppa podcast. I'm Kat Wright. Welcome to season 2. And we have published a few episodes here and there. We've talked to bands, musicians, and we've also talked to music lovers. And so there's more to come. Slowly but surely, I am getting there. It's just me. I do everything by myself. I record these, I interview, I edit them, and I distribute. I do everything on my own. I've learned so much these past 2 years as I've been doing this, and this podcast episode is about that and how these 2 years have been, but also is I'd like to talk about mental health and more things for sure. So this year has been very, very difficult for me, mentally, physically. Oh gosh, honestly, I could go on about this, but we're gonna talk about it bit by a bit, so I don't get confused. So I'm not even going to edit this. I'm going just to talk as candidly as I can and as I know how. So as you might have noticed, or you might know, I'm neurodivergent. So my brain just jumps from one thing to another because one thing reminds me of something that I really want to talk about. So I'm going to be jumping, from subject to just all the time. So if I annoy you, I'm so sorry. However, if you listen to this regularly, then you know what you're gonna get. Basically, you know what you're gonna get. So I decided to do this solo cast today, and I have called it Candid because I'm going to talk candidly about how my year has been, but also how my journey so far has gone. So I would like to start with how this podcast came about. So before I even decided to create Grab a Cuppa, I didn't even listen to podcasts, but I knew that I wanted to speak to artists, speak to bands, speak to people like me who love music. So I decided, what's the thing that I like to do the most? Drink tea, or coffee. So I always have a hot drink. Today's cup of soup. So I always have something in my cup. Either it's, I was going to say booze, but I don't drink as much anymore, but I will talk about it soon. So I don't lose my trail of thought. We Grab a Cuppa. It was like, I love meeting people and I love just having a chat and just talk about everything and anything. But I also suffer from awful anxiety, social anxiety especially. So it's very difficult for me to meet new people. Very, very hard. So currently in my normal circle of friends, I would say that I probably have 2 people that I message regularly or I see regularly. But by regularly, I even mean like once every 2 months. So I want to change that, but I have awful social anxiety. And I will talk about my anxiety in a minute. So this podcast, it was just more of, for me as well, to get used to talking to other people. And I've always wanted to be an interviewer. So I love journalism all my life. And I've always wanted to do it. So for me, it was like, I want to learn my own way. The way I learn is by doing it. So I started this podcast thinking, what can I call it? What can I call this that I want to do, but without putting a like a name on it, sort of like the music podcast. What if I don't want to talk about music that day? So I didn't want it to be something like that. So I just decided, grab a cuppa. It could be about anything and everything. So that works for me. And because, well, by the accent, you probably are wondering, if you're listening to this for the first time, you're probably wondering, what is that accent? I cannot place it. I will tell you. So I'm Portuguese, and I have lived in Leeds, West Yorkshire for a long time. And my husband is got a very, very strong Yorkshire accent. And I'm one of those people that picks up accents really, really easily. I do. I pick up accents really easily wherever I go. Honestly, I tell this story to a lot of people. So long story short, so I used to work as a freelancer for like a catering agency. So I would go places and I'd do waitressing, I manage, do whatever. But we used to do lots of events all over the country. So I would go to places like Newcastle or Liverpool and I would pick up the accent and then come back still with my Portuguese accent with a twang of, I'd go to Scotland and then I come back with sort of like a Yorkshire and Scottish and Portuguese like accent mixed in together. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Yeah, it did. People were making fun of me at the time because I was talking weird. It's fine. I've been called weird all my life anyway. It's all good, man. So yeah. So that's why the name Grab a Cuppa came about and what I wanted to do with it. And mental health is something that I always talk about, and it's something that it's a subject that is very, very close to my heart. It's only been the past 5 years, I can tell everyone really, past 5-6 years, that I've been really, really open and honest with everyone about it, about my struggles. So this is where it comes to the talking about my anxiety, my depression, being diagnosed with chronic depression, chronic anxiety, social anxiety, health anxiety, generalized anxiety, all types of anxiety. I've got it. Name it, I've got it. Trust me. Going back to being at school and being the weird kid at school, because I had a really bad accident when I was a kid, so I have my right foot is damaged from that. So I walk funny. I don't know how to explain it. I walk funny. So as a kid, I used to walk really, really awkwardly, so the kids would make fun of me. And so yeah. So and then I was that type of kid that it was honestly, I would have my my school dinner in the bathroom because the kids would just pick on me all the time. And I didn't really understand what the other kids were telling me, what they were talking about. I now I know that it is to do with a processing disorder, but then I didn't know. And so everyone sort of like, it was just the weird kid that no one wanted to hang out with. So yeah, I was a lonely kid anyway. I was a lonely kid. Didn't really have many friends. But then you kind of like, you get so used to it. You get so used to it. You get to the time that you start to enjoy your own company and you just do your own thing. And so, yeah. So I got bullied a lot. And again, I lost where I was. Yeah, so anxiety, mental health. And so from being that, that weird kid to then being a grown up, still weird, but now I I've embraced that in many, 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 many ways. And I love being weird. Now, honestly, I love being weird. I do not associate the word weird with a bad thing anymore, because I'm weird, I'm different, and I've known so many people like me who are weird, quote unquote, and they just embrace it. I love it. And so being diagnosed with anxiety and depression and lots of other things, I'm not going to go into it too much. I was hiding it for a long time. Try to be normal, whatever that is. Trying to be normal and copying people and try to be like them and act like them, like it was the right thing to do. And honestly, but I found myself, especially throughout my early 20s, copying other people that I thought were normal, and I thought that's what the people who I saw as being accepted by society in general. So the popular people within like that circle of friends, well, quote unquote friends, really, it was just people that I knew from nights out. They weren't really friends, sadly. However, I did meet very, very good people. I'm not going to say here that everyone was horrible, because not everyone was horrible, but that's how I met my now husband. So not everything is bad, Not everything is bad. He's a good egg, he is. And I guess just anxiety. There's one of the things that I did that people didn't really understand. So, because of my anxiety, I could not go into a pub or restaurant or anything like that on my own. So let me explain. I would have to have someone, whoever I was meeting, a certain time. I'd have to have that person outside waiting for me. So I didn't look like I was just like Billy no mates. That was the thing. That was the thing behind it. Another thing as well, I was always very scared. I was just so scared of doing these things on my own. The fear of being judged by other people, of like, oh, look at it, look at that person, look at them, they're by themselves, oh, they have no friends. But yeah, that's what I was scared of. But also the anxiety, which at the time I didn't know it was anxiety, and having all these people around me, especially in pubs and stuff like that, where it's really noisy and people are just talking all over, like talking and shouting and getting very rowdy. And at the time, I really didn't know it was anxiety. I did not know how to cope. I didn't have the tools to cope with those situations. So I thought I was just like, oh my God, I'm being weird now. I'm feeling weird. I'm being that person. And that feeling just triggered everything else. So I had to have someone wait for me. I would text my friend at the time, which I'm still good friends with till this day, which is really good. I would text them and say, can you meet me outside? I'm going to be 5 minutes. And I would walk slowly. But I tell you what, something that I would do quite often is that if we were meeting, let's say 7 o'clock in the evening, everyone's meeting at 7, and it's like, oh, okay. I would get there by 8:30, because then everyone would be there and they would be drunk enough to not realize that first I was late, and second to then, I don't know, they wouldn't pay much attention to me and the fact that I felt anxious, or I don't know, they just do their own thing or whatever. I don't know what was going through my mind at the time exactly, but That was the reason behind it, I guess. So I would be late on purpose. And to be honest, I was never a big fan of, we're going to meet at 5 o'clock and then drink from 5 o'clock until 11 o'clock when we move on to a nightclub on a Friday night. I was never a fan of that because I just you spend a lot of money as well. You spend a lot of money in the pub and people... And my anxiety, I didn't know at the time, but my anxiety got so bad. And I'm just like, no, if we're going to go to this nightclub at 11, then I'm going to be there at 8:30. So that's what I did a lot of the time. And then get there and be like, oh, okay, everyone's drunk. And so I'm going to catch up. Why? Why did I do that? Spend so much money catching up and having to and feeling like I had to be that drunk person for everyone to like me as well. That's I don't know if anyone has ever experienced that, but that's a big problem. That's a very, very big issue. For me, it was, especially as a neurodivergent person and an autistic person. However, let me put a disclaimer. I do not have an official diagnosis. Here in the UK, it's taking a long time to get seen. It's been 2 years now since filling the papers to get an official assessment. However, this is a personal thing. I have 2 kids with autism, and my daughter, who is going to turn 11 really soon, she is exactly like I was or am. So she's a double of me. Therefore, you put 2 and 2 together, behaviors and everything else. And when I was a child, my psychologist at the time said that I might have autism, and they explained what it was. But at the time, I didn't understand any of it. So I don't have an official diagnosis, but I know 100% that I am. However, when I say neurodivergent, I mean, this is what I've been diagnosed. Okay, I have OCD, I have depression and anxiety. I know these are mental health issues. But what I'm trying to say is I am dyslexic, I have sensory processing disorder, and also I have dyscalculia and all of the things that come with it, and these are under the umbrella of neurodiversity. So there we go. So just so you know what I'm talking about, and I don't get people in the comments, but you don't have a diagnosis. There we go. So I've explained. And and so yeah, you find that as, I don't know if it's just a girl thing, I'm not sure, but as a neurodivergent person, you tend to copy people a lot. So people that you think have their shit together, or people who, I don't know, who you perhaps admire, or I don't know, I think you copy your peers, what is socially acceptable, and you copy them. So as a neurodivergent person, I found myself copying other people's behaviors because I thought that no one's judging them, for as far as I knew. No one is judging them. Maybe they're not going to judge me if I act like that. Or sometimes you just do it. I don't know. We just copy people. So that's how I spent most of my life, sort of hiding who I was, my behaviors, and my stims as well. Hiding my stims. My stims are biting my fingers. I bite my fingers a lot. And right now, as I'm recording this, I've got my hands under my desk, and I am squeezing my fingers really tightly. I'm squeezing my fingers because this is so hard to do, to record yourself just pouring your heart out almost. But this is I also have a spinning thing where I go and spin it when I feel a bit anxious. So, pardon me. So yeah, so you tend to copy other people, and so the drinking was that as well, because I found that people didn't find me as interesting or as funny, as outgoing if I wasn't drunk. So everyone loved the drunk me, but when it came to just being me, being awkward and quiet and being kind of a scaredy cat, if I'm honest, people didn't really pay that much attention to me. And which in a way I kind of liked, but as I explored my social side and wanting to be seen somewhat, not too much. It's very complicated. It's very, very complicated. I don't know how to explain sometimes, but you want to be seen, but you don't want to be seen by many people. If that even makes sense. Oh my goodness me. And copying other people's behaviors as well, thinking, oh, I'm going to do what they're doing. And it's like, why did I do that? If I could go back in time to when I was 20, 21, I would just be like, go back and say, just be yourself. Just be yourself. But yeah, that happened. And to the point where I discovered the hard way that I had a problem with alcohol. And I'm going to say an issue. It was not an addiction. It was an issue. What I mean is by having just an issue, not like an addiction. So it was drinking. It was something that I would do, not often. I wouldn't do it that often. However, I was a binge drinker. So what I would do is, like, on the Friday night, Saturday night, I would get to the pub, like I mentioned before, get to the pub and everyone was like drunk, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is like my social, it's like taking this, it's like getting into a persona, isn't it? It's like you're acting almost. So you go and, I need to act like that fun person, like, look at me, I'm loud, I'm obnoxious, but in a fun way, like I've got my, you need to drink a pint of courage. That's what I used to call it, like a pint of courage or whatever. And if you're struggling, you get like a hot drink. No, I do that now. You would get a strong drink, so you just get it and be like, "Ooh, okay, have that." If you really, really needed that extra strength drink, I guess. Yeah, that's interesting. Now talking about it, yeah, that's very interesting. So you do that, and everything was like, fine. Let's party time. And for doing that for so long, and then having some time off work, some money in the bank, and then be like, ooh, there's something happening on a Wednesday, I'm going to go to that. And then do the same, like drink or whatever. Oh, there's something happening on a Tuesday. Oh, do that. And then it became Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And then it's like, oh, there's something happening on the Monday. Then it became Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. What the penny dropped for me when I went to a house party, and I'd done many, many of these. But what happened to me was, when I woke up next day, like very hungover and feeling very ill, I woke up next day and the first thing that I fancied was a drink. The first thing that I felt like I needed to have was a drink. And I had a beer. Yeah. So we're not talking about really, really strong, but I had a beer and it was like not even 9 o'clock in the morning. It was like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And I drank it and I stopped. Hang on a minute. Why am I doing this? I poured that down. I poured it out. I didn't even finish it. I poured the rest of it out in the sink. What the hell am I doing? And from then, I was just like, no, I need to stop this. And I did not have a drink in the morning ever again because of that, the way they made me feel. Because I have seen how alcoholism affects people. You know, throughout my life, I've seen how it affects people. I've seen how drugs have affected people that I knew, who I was friends with. I've known people that have died because of it. I've known people who became very, very ill. And then those people that I knew, that I once knew that no longer are here, came to my mind when I had that drink. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So that's what happened to me. But it was really hard. It was really, really hard to get out of that habit, to get out of that binge drinking habit. It was so, so difficult. And at the end of the day, it was just, I was doing what everyone else was doing. And I'm just like, why? I'm not like this. Normally, I'm not like this person. Why am I behaving like so? And that happened. But I'll tell you something. I am so glad that I had that beer. Because that made me realize what I was doing at that time. So, yeah. It made me realize that I was having that issue. And that was just that, for me. It just, something clicked. It was just, something just clicked, like, what are you doing? And I was one of those people that, honestly, I tell this story to everyone. I was one of those people that would go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish a very long shift, okay, on a Friday, because I worked in, like, catering and stuff like that, you know, unsociable hours. And I would start, I did a lot of weddings, by the way, so you have some context here. I would start a shift at 8 o'clock in the morning, or even before that, 7, 8 o'clock. I'd have a whole day of being on my feet, like all day. And then weddings, if you've been to a wedding before, they are like all freaking day, like they're exhausting. So the wedding, after parties, whatever, okay? And then finishing a shift at 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? And then go out. What the hell was I thinking? Go out, okay? 1 o'clock in the morning, your friends are still out and whatever. You think, oh yeah, okay, it's Friday night. Well, Saturday early morning now. It's Friday, Saturday, let's go. And I would go and stay out. Then I'd go and drink. Like, I need to get drunk and stuff like that. And then I would drink so much in a very, very, like, short amount of time. And then it came to like 3 o'clock in the morning, just really drunk. And then 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, I really need to go home now. So I would go home, have a nap. So I would sleep an hour or two, get ready for work next day. Well, next day. The same flipping day, ain't it? I would get ready for work, showered and stuff like that. Make sure I like brush my teeth like 5 times, because obviously, you know, when you drink alcohol, the smell stays with you. So I would go to work, still drunk probably, but I would go to work and then do another ridiculous long shift, and then go out again, do the same thing, repeat that whole day, do it again on the Friday and then Saturday, and then go home on a Sunday morning. Yeah. And then go to sleep. If I did that now, I would be dead. I'd die. I probably would die. I would not be able to do that now. Now, at the age of 36, knackered, you know, I go to a gig, a local gig, 2 hours. I'm like, oh, my back, I need to go home. And if I did what I did now, oh my goodness me. But yes, you get the gist. You get the gist of how it was, me and drinking. I was never a person to become addicted to substances, really. So I am grateful. I am so grateful for being able to notice the what I was doing, to notice all of that stuff. So I'm very, very grateful for that, because a lot of people cannot, and a lot of people need help. So if you are one of those people, I am sure there's lots of resources that you can search for. Honestly, there's so much help out there. Don't suffer alone, because that shit stuff, man. That shit stuff when you don't have an addiction. So when you have an addiction, imagine that. Imagine how tough it is. So that is your story to tell, not mine. But yeah, seek help, please do. And so that's how I dealt with that thing, and that's how it happened for me. But I think it was from that time, I remember it vividly, like from that time I started to think about my life choices. What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Do I want to still be where do I see myself in 10 years? That's why I thought at the time. I was like, I'm going to stop this. And I didn't stop it, as, you know, because it's really difficult. I didn't stop it straight away, but it was more like I didn't have a drink first thing in the morning. But the binge drinking just started to become less and less. So I would, you know, I'd still go out, still go see friends and stuff like that, but I stopped sort of like giving in to the need of catching up. And I need to be the fun person. And I just like, you know what, this is me. If you like it, you do. If you don't, then you know where the door is. But it took a long time. And I tell you something, this is by experience. When you decide to stop the partying, when you decide to stop the drinking and going out as much, and when you decide to settle down and you decide that you want a family and you want that kind of life, you will know who your friends are. That's all I have to say. You will know who your friends are. You will know the people that will stick around. You'll know the people that will be, you know, when you first find out that you're expecting, or when you lose someone, or when you first get engaged, or when you first break up with somebody, or you know, all of these gains and losses, victories, and all of this stuff. You know, you'll know who your friends are. That's for sure. At the time, I was so naive to think that I had, oh, look at me, I'm popular. But then out of like the hundreds of people that I knew from nights out, thinking they were my friends, and all the conversations that you had in the the pub toilets and stuff like that with all these other people, thinking, oh my God, like, you're my best friend, to then you settle down and tumbleweed, where's everyone? Never mind. I think that's like another episode of Grab a Cuppa, I think, because this is going for like nearly 40 minutes. Hopefully I'm not rambling. Is that rumbling or rambling? I think it's rambling, isn't it? Rumbling is something different. I am still learning English, apparently. I'm still learning. So, yeah, English is my second language. Portuguese is my first. And I don't speak either very well. So, hey-ho. If I can do podcast, you can do podcast. It's fine. Moving on. And so from then, it's just like, you know who your friends are. So out of all those people, I can count like 5 people that I speak to right now. Still, after all these years. What else? There's also another thing that I've been dealing with this year and the past 5 years, maybe. How to deal with the changes of like my body, so mentally and physically. So let me explain. I was never one of those people who were massively confident about how they looked. Honestly, again, I was bullied at school, so I was called names, like really nasty names. So yeah. And I never thought of myself as being pretty. I never thought of myself being, I don't know, attractive or anything like that. Like, it's fine. I guess I don't know. But then again, if you're gonna go, if you tell someone like, oh, I think I'm pretty, I think I'm this and that and the other, and then society just calls you vain anyway. So anyway, let's not get into that. So I never saw myself as like being good looking or whatever. There's always something about me that I hated, or most of it, to be honest. But what I've been dealing with the past few years is dealing with how I look like. So what I mean is, let me explain. When I always had this thing of like always feeling overweight and whatever, so I exercised a lot. I ran everywhere and I worked silly hours, and I wouldn't eat much. But I always struggled with losing weight. Always have done all my life. So yeah, I was never been happy with the way I looked. So I've always been quite heavy set. Now, so I always struggled and follow all these different. I changed my diet like many times. I went vegetarian for 2 years until I really missed bacon, and then I just did all this stuff, but I could never like lose it unless I was really ill, unless I got to a point where I was very, very ill and I lost weight due to illness rather than wellness, let's say. So yeah, and I've always struggled with stuff like that, and but it was until I became a mum that I saw how my body was changing, and I'm just like, okay, all right. I loved being pregnant. Not every woman loves pregnancy because of many different reasons, but I loved being pregnant. I didn't have morning sickness. I had a very cute bump, and I was fascinated about this, this human that was growing inside me. So I loved it. But I had to have a C-section. Labor was horrid, and so I really struggled with that and the way that my body changed. Now, I I had lost a lot of weight when I was pregnant with both of my children. And then after after having them and the operation, I found myself that even though I lost a lot of weight, I found myself feeling so depressed. Obviously, postnatal depression is something really, really real, honestly, for females and males. Please go read about it if you are interested. It affects males the same way that it affects females, but with males it's more a psychological way rather than a physical way for females. But do Google it. Do not take my word for it. Go research it if you are interested to know more. So, and I was just like so sad because of the way that I looked. I felt really ugly. I felt horrible. Like my body was saggy. But then imagine carrying this tiny human in you, and then all of a sudden I felt like there was something missing. I was no longer pregnant, so that was sad. But that's something I had to deal with at the time with postnatal depression. And honestly, I was just looking and I'm like, no. So I was hiding my body. I was just covering and just hiding it and stuff like that. It has taken me, now my kids are now 10 and 8. It's taken me 10 years to kind of get over it. And there's something that my therapist had told me to do, and I thought she was just having a laugh at the time. But she said to me, what I want you to do is just every single day, you start with 1 minute, and then next day 2, then next day 3, next day 4, so on. Until, 5 minutes. 5 minutes maximum, okay? 5 minutes maximum. So she says, why don't you just go fully naked, look at yourself in the mirror, and tell yourself what you see. However, you must pick one positive thing about that body that you see. It has to have one positive thing. Think about it really, really hard. And then we'll go from one positive thing to 2 positive things. So then we will have more positives than negatives. And honestly, the first time that I did it, 1 minute felt like one eternity. I was shaking. I was crying. I was on my own because I didn't want anyone around me. Obviously, I don't want anyone around you while you're naked. But what I mean is, obviously I was by myself. I was shaking. I was crying. I did not have anything positive to say about this. I didn't want to do this at all. Like, I felt awful to even she's stupid. I don't want to do this. But I tell you something, especially after all these years, and I have gained a bit of weight as well, and doing this, it was the best thing that I've done. It was the best thing that I've done. Now I can actually stare and be like, I am grateful for this body, for what it does for me. Okay, I need to take care of this body more and better. I need to do all of these things to improve it. However, this is the body that carries me. This is the body that carried my children that I love so much. And I need my legs to get me to gigs. As much as I struggle with my mobility, I have aids for that. I have crutches, but I still have my legs. I still have my arms. I still have all of these things. And it's okay to love yourself. It's not vanity. it's appreciating what you have. Honestly, either you size 8 or size 18, okay? Just look at your body and think about the things that you love about it until you have, more positive things than negative. That is my advice. Honestly, when my therapist said that, I'm like, no, I ain't doing that. But yeah, I tried it and it works. It really does. It worked for me, might work for you. Who knows? And dealing with becoming a parent has been very, very difficult these past few years. However, this is an episode that I will be recording, me and my husband. So we're going to be doing yet another Candid episode. And we're going to be talking about life as parents to 2 kids with autism and how things are like, how we met. And, if you are interested in knowing, then go listen. Give it a listen. And if there's any questions or anything like that, then do let me know. Grab a cup of pod at gmail.com. That is the place to go if you want to talk to me, and you can follow us as well. Grab a cup of pod at Twitter and or my personal Twitter as well. I'm Cat Right at Twitter, and so you can follow me there as well. I am Cat Right also on TikTok. And so I'm catright at gmail.com is the email address if you want to email me directly. And so it's all good, man. It's all good. So this is the end of part 1 of this conversation. Part 2 coming up soon, where I'm going to be talking about my journey in radio and journalism and all of that stuff, and how we all started as a lockdown project. So ta-ta for now.
Grab a Cuppa podcast with Cat Wright.